Welcome back. In our last lesson, we spent a good deal of time learning new five-finger patterns and their related chords. So let's begin today by warming up the fingers with our new warm-up. Remember, immediately following the major five-finger scale, we play the broken chord, ascending and descending, and then end with the blocked chord. Try both hands, but if you get lost, try to keep one hand playing along with me. We'll start on C and move up to the next pattern that we know, which will be D. Next, we'll play E, then skip to G, and end on A. Please set your hands up for the C major warm-up. Here we go with C. 1, 2, and play. Now move to D. Now move to E. Next is G and 1, 2. One and play A. Now, I think that we should learn two more finger patterns, two more major patterns. Then we'll know all of the major five-finger scales that begin on a white key. Let's look at F first. Think about the whole, whole, half, whole pattern as you figure out the notes along with me. We start on F, then go up a whole step to G, another whole step higher to A, and next we have our half step up to this black key. We just called the previous note an A, so the one after it has to be some kind of B. The half step between A and B can be called B flat. As a rule in music, when we lower a note by half step, we call it a flat. Now, back to our scale. The final note is a whole step higher than B flat, which will be a C. So from B flat up to C. So let's try this pattern with both hands. 1, 2, here we go. F, G, A, B flat, C, B flat, A, G, F. Some people find the right hand to be a little awkward with the F major five-finger pattern because the fourth finger is up on the black key or B flat. Since the black keys are on a different plane from the white keys, it can be tricky to play this scale evenly at first. You will get used to playing it with practice. Now let's try the F major chord, first broken, then blocked. We'll play the bottom, the middle, and top notes from the five-finger pattern, then we'll do this as the chord only right now. 1, 2, here we go. Bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom, block. So let's put the scale and the chord together. We'll repeat it and try to do both hands if you can. 1, 2, and play. Broken. Block. Repeat. Okay, so here's the pattern for B major, and I'll warn you this one is quite awkward for most people, so be patient with yourself as you learn it. We begin with the lowest finger in each hand on B. Then we go up a whole step to C sharp. Remember, here we're calling this note a sharp because it has to be some kind of C, and a half step higher than C is C sharp. Then we go up another whole step to D sharp, up half a step to E, and finally up a whole step to F sharp. This is the note that many people find tricky to reach. Some people have shorter pinky fingers than others. If your fifth finger is long, you may not need to adjust your hand. However, if you are having trouble reaching the F sharp, either with the fifth finger of your right hand or the thumb of your left hand, you may have to rotate your hand or wrist, indeed your whole arm, like so. And you may need to move it in toward the fallboard, which is the key cover on most pianos. Then, of course, the chord for B major will be B, D sharp, and F sharp, or the bottom, middle, and top notes of the scale. You might find the chord easier to play than the five-finger pattern. In reality, we encounter the B major chord frequently in music, so I encourage you to keep practicing until you become more comfortable with this key. Okay, so let's try the B major five-finger pattern and chord. 1, 2, and play. When you warm up, I encourage you to play through all 7 of the major key scales and chords that you know. Not only will this help you to become familiar with the scales and chords, it will help you to develop finger facility, which will be required for scalar passage work, or scale-like runs, as we call them, in more advanced pieces. You'll find an accompaniment track with all 7 of these keys in your lesson materials. I'd like to step back for one moment and review the 3 new terms that we've encountered during the past couple of lessons, just to make sure that you have good definitions of each term. A sharp is the symbol that we use in music to indicate that we should raise the note or pitch by a half step. Depending on your generation, you might think of this symbol as the pound sign or the hashtag sign. We always place the symbol directly before the note on the staff and on the line or in the space of the note head so that we have time to make the adjustment. In this case, we have a G sharp. See how the line goes through the center of the sharp sign? Or a C sharp. Here the center of the sharp is in the same space as the C. I think of the symbol in the notation to be like a road sign on a highway. The sign for the off-ramp usually comes a little before the actual turnoff, otherwise we'd miss it. Similarly, a flat in front of a note on the staff alters it slightly. A flat is the symbol that we use to indicate that a pitch should be lowered by half a step, and it's shaped kind of like a pointy lowercase b. Like the sharp, the flat symbol is placed before the note on the staff to indicate the change. It is on the appropriate line or space so that even if the note weren't there, I'd know which note is meant to be flat. When a sharp or flat are placed in front of a note, we call this an accidental, but it's no accident. In fact, that note remains sharp or flat for the entire measure unless otherwise indicated. How would we indicate that the note should return to its normal or natural pitch? We use a natural sign, which is this square with what sort of looks like one arm and one leg. Just like the other accidentals, the natural sign is placed before the pitch and on the same line or in the same space as the note being altered, and it lasts for the remainder of the measure. And there's one other thing. Any key on the piano can have more than one name. I'll use an example of a black key. The black key, a half step above F, is an F sharp. But if I'm thinking of it as a half step lower than G, I'll call it a G flat. It sounds the same and looks the same on the keyboard, but the pitch would look different on the staff and have a different name. This is called enharmonic, when the note sounds the same but is spelled differently. We'll encounter enharmonics again in a later lecture. Let's look at 4 measures of music that contain a lot of accidentals and try to decide which notes are sharp, flat, or natural. In measure 1, we begin with a B, a third above landmark G. The next note is B flat. The following 2 Bs in that measure are still played as B flats. Remember, the accidental lasts for the entire measure unless otherwise indicated. In measure 2, there is an E flat, then the F, a step higher. The last note of that measure is an E natural, so you play the white key E. In measure 3, the first note is landmark F in the bass clef. The next note is F sharp, followed by a third below, which is D, and then it skips back up to F sharp. Here again, the accidental for F lasts for the entire measure. In measure 4, the first note is F natural. There is no need for the natural sign to be indicated because that accidental does not carry across the bar line. But on beat 2, there is another F sharp, and on beat 4, because there is a natural in front of the F, you play the white key, F, on the piano. Now let's play these examples on the piano. You can use whichever fingers you like. Just compare your pitches to mine. We have a B, B flat, B flat, B flat, now down to E flat, up to F natural, then E natural. Landmark F in the left, F sharp, D, still F sharp, now F natural across the bar line, F sharp, D, and an F natural. So let's get back to some playing. How about if we try When the Saints Go Marching In? Get your hands in place and I'll count you in. You'll have one complete measure or 4 counts. We'll rest on beat 1 and you join me on beat 2 with the right hand. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. If you need to try that again in order to play more of the pitches or rhythms correctly, feel free to pause the video and review it a few times. Did you notice that there is a forte sign indicating that the melody should be played strongly and a piano sign for the left-hand notes? How is the balance between your hands? Sometimes when we have 2 or more notes in the left hand for the harmony, it can be tricky to keep those notes softer than the right-hand melody. To make matters worse, the melody is in a very thin-sounding part of the piano that may not project as well as the lower left-hand notes. So, for that reason, we want to purposefully play the left-hand piano and the right-hand forte. Let's try that again, focusing on exaggerating the dynamics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. If you think back to the intervals that we've learned thus far, we've worked on seconds, thirds, and fifths. Today, I'd like to highlight the interval of a fourth. On the staff, a fourth will always go from a line to a space, or from a space to a line with 2 notes in between. So we count the note we begin on as 1, then we have 2 and 3, which we skip, and we end on the 4th note, higher in this case, but it will work the same way if we're looking for a 4th below any particular note. On the keyboard, it looks like this. When we count the notes to come up with a 4th, remember to count the note that we start on and the note that we end on. Here's how a 4th would look below the note. So let's try finding some 4ths. I'll say a note name. I'd like you to play it on the piano, and then identify the 4th. I'll ask you to go either higher or lower. For example, let's play a C now. Find a fourth higher. Do you have an F? If you did not identify F, try to see how you miscalculated. Remember to count the C, the note that we started on. Now, play a B. Can you find a fourth lower? You should have an F. Play a D. Then go down a fourth. Did you play an A? Here's the last one. Play a G. And play a fourth above. You should have arrived at C. Now, place your left hand finger 5 on the C below middle C. I'll refer to this as base C. And without moving your hand, play a fourth higher than that C. You'll skip 2 fingers, and ideally, you'll play the F with your second finger. So C to F. Now, with the same hand, play a G with your thumb. If you play a fourth lower, you'll play a D with your fourth finger. So for fourths, try not to move your hand and just skip 2 fingers, whichever hand you are using. So let's learn a short new piece that features, among other intervals, a fourth. I'm going to show you the score, or the notation, first. Take a look at it, and without playing, try to identify the fourths in this piece. Did you find this one? How about this one? Notice that right after this descending fourth in measure 2, the melody turns around immediately and goes back up a fourth between beats 2 and 3. Here is the score with all of the fourths marked. If you didn't catch all of the fourths, I would recommend pausing the video and taking a moment to circle them on your score. Recognizing the fourths in advance will help you to prepare your fingers in time as you are learning to play this piece. Eventually, you may not need to mark the fourths, but for now, I'd like you to have the visual indication of the fourths on your music. You may have noticed that here the fourths occur in the melody, when we play one note after the other. This kind of interval is called a melodic interval. Remember, interval is the distance between 2 notes, and melodic simply means that the notes of the interval are played one after the other. Whereas you notice with this fourth, the notes of the interval are played simultaneously. This is called a harmonic interval or a harmonic fourth. In easier beginning piano music, harmonic intervals are most often encountered when harmonizing a melody. While we don't see a harmonic fourth in this example, we will see it in an upcoming lesson. Now that we've identified the fourths in this piece, notice the right-hand melody and try to be aware of where you have seconds and thirds. You'll see that apart from the fourths, your right hand will encounter seconds. I'm going to play this for you. I'll play both hands, but I want you to follow along with the right hand or melody only. First, just listen to the entire piece. Are you ready to try the right hand with me? How about if you shadow the right hand part first as I play? 1, 2, and play. If you are like most of my students, you will need some time on your own to learn this, so I won't have you play it with me right now. But because I'd like you to work on the entire piece with both hands before the next lesson, let's take a quick look at the left hand. Notice all of the harmonic intervals. Although the left hand notes change from one measure to the next, take some comfort in the fact that there is quite a bit of stepwise motion. For example, although the harmonic third has different notes from measure 1 to measure 2, Each note simply moves up by step, so you'll be able to play the adjacent fingers. I've provided some finger indications below the staff to help you choose the best fingering. You will not have to move your hand into a different position as you play this. Why don't you try to shadow the left hand with me now? I'll play, you shadow. I'm going to play both hands once more, and I'll play it with the accompaniment so that you can hear how it will sound once you've learned it and can practice with the accompaniment. This time as I play, I'd like you to tap the rhythm of each hand on your lap, which will help you to get a sense of where the hands play together, and when you have to lift your left hand, to be able to line it up with the next right hand note. You may have recognized this melody. It's actually a folk song called Oralee, but Elvis used the melody for Love Me Tender, so it's been a part of our American culture in several genres. Please work on Oralee before we meet again for our next lesson. When you feel confident with it, I encourage you to play it with the accompaniment that I've provided with your course materials. I have one more right-hand melody that I'd like to introduce before the next lesson. It's something that I wrote for you called Woodland Jaunt. I came up with the melody on a walk through the woods behind my house, hence the title. If you take a look at the beginning, you'll see that it begins on E with finger 3, and then it skips up a third to G before stepping down several times. There are lots of other seconds and thirds throughout this piece. However, I see 2 intervals of a fourth. Can you identify them? Here they are. So, as you approach them, prepare to skip 2 fingers. Let's play through 4 measures of the right hand slowly and carefully together. I'd practice that section first. I'll talk as we play, alerting you to the intervals and note names. What you hear me verbalizing as we play is what I'd eventually like you to be thinking about as you read musical notation. We won't be quite in time as we work through the example this first time. Put your hand in C position and start with 3rd finger on E. Skip up a third to G, down a step, up a step, down a 4th, up a step, up a step, up a step, up a step, down a 3rd, up a step to G. I'll let you learn this on your own before the next lesson. And I would like you to add the left-hand notes too. I'll play it for you so you can model your performance on mine before we meet again. Finally today, I'd like to take a few minutes to address healthy playing and staying relaxed at the piano. I've been mentioning the importance of maintaining a relaxed hand and body position at the piano since our first lesson. But now that you are learning more music and maybe spending more time at the piano, it's a good time to revisit the issue and look at some basic steps that you can take before, during, and after practice to stay healthy and prevent injury. First of all, you should never feel pain when you play. If something hurts, stop right away and try to figure out where the tension is coming from so that you can prevent it the next time you sit at the piano. I'll remind you to maintain your good piano position that we spoke about at the first lesson. Sometimes, when we are learning new music, our head juts forward, which can cause us to get out of alignment and cause the neck, shoulders, and back some tension. Also remember how your hands and fingers should look. You can always put your hands down by the sides or even over your knees to remember what a healthy hand position looks and feels like. Once you play a key on the piano, relax your hand. There is no need to maintain pressure when holding a note. Especially as we age, but really always, it's a good idea to warm up the larger muscles and the body before and after practice, and take short breaks to avoid sitting in one position for an extended period of time. Pay attention to your body and you'll discover when you should take breaks. In the beginning, it's a good idea to stand up and take a quick break or stretch every 15 or 20 minutes. So, try to do some physical warm-ups before you sit down to do your finger warm-ups at the piano. Then, take breaks and do stretches during practice and after you finish practicing, as physical cool-downs help to keep the muscles limber. During physical warm-ups and cool-downs, I find it helpful to breathe deeply from the diaphragm. During this time, be aware of any tension and try to gently release it. Walk around the room or march in place for 3 to 5 minutes to get the blood flowing. I use this time to think about what we're going to work on during practice and to plan my practice session. You can swing your arms. And during practice breaks, remember to do shoulder shrugs and rolls. You could even do the backstroke. And wringing an imaginary towel like so, and shaking out your arms, and doing a gentle hand massage can prevent injury and soreness from pronation, which is the way we hold our arms at the piano for extended periods of time when we play and practice. So for next time, please work on the following. Do a 3 to 5 minute physical warm-up before going to the piano or keyboard. Warm up the fingers with the 5-finger patterns and chords. We're doing C, D, E, F, G, A, and B major, and play along with the accompaniment track which follows that sequence. Learn orally with both hands, and your goal tempo should be a quarter note equals 108. Play along with the accompaniment too. Practice the woodland jaunt, play the melody with the accompaniment, and try it slowly, hands together. The accompaniment tempo will be a quarter note equals 132. Review an older repertoire piece as well. And remember to take short breaks throughout each practice session. End your practice by doing a light stretch of your arms, shoulders, and a physical cool down. Well, I've given you lots to think about and try for next time. I hope you enjoy working on all of these things. Remember to break up the assignment across several practice sessions and over several days, and even break down longer or more complicated music into smaller practice sections. When you are ready, please join me for Lesson 7. Until then, happy practicing.